All right, so this is Jonah Dempsey. I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive now, continuing on in our video series. So in our last video, we looked at the lines, and I want to just kind of go a little deeper into the lines here. So I haven't heard it quite phrased this way before, but this is essentially based on things that Ra has said. Ra talks about the third line as mutable, and the sixth line is mutable. It's well, the keynote for the third line is adaptation, for the sixth line is transition. Then he also talks about the first and the fourth line being fixed. So through deduction, we pretty much are left with only one other quality, fixed and mutable being two of the qualities of the science from astrology. The remaining quality is cardinal. In astrology, the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. So we're pretty much left with the conclusion that the second and fifth line are cardinal, and this very much fits. Now, as mentioned in the previous video, there is some debate over the yin and yang qualities of the lines. I'm of the belief that lines 1, 3, and 5 are yin, 2, 4, and 6 are yang. In traditional I Ching scholarship, 1, 3, and 5 are actually exalted when they're yang. 2, 4, and 6 are exalted when they're yin. By the way, it's the full moon, and it's the biggest full moon of the year. Yeah, there's the full moon. That's the right angle. There we go. So it's kind of an interesting question then of which is correct. And I think ultimately, I think there may be a sense in which lines 1 and 3 and 5 are exalted when yang, because maybe the yin is exalted when it's yang, and vice versa. But I do think if you look at, first of all, the lectures Ra gave on the lines, he specifically describes 1, 3, and 5 as yin, 2, 4, and 6 as yang. But then the question is, did he make a mistake? I don't see how he could, because he did like many different lectures over many years and many different times using these associations. And he also describes the qualities so well through the lens of yin and yang. Now, the thing that happens when we're talking about the archetypal, there's always a redoubling. So for instance, you don't just have a masculine archetype or a feminine archetype. Say, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Well, there's also a feminine Mars, the Amazon warrior queen. There's also a masculine Venus, right? Which would be like the male version of Venus would be like an Oscar Wilde, a dandy, or a flaneur or something, right? So we always have a redoubling effect. So there is, in some sense, a yin of yang and a yang of yin. And I think that's why there is some, I guess I would just say, some way in which you can characterize the lines either way. You can find the yang quality of yin. You can find the exalted yang within the yin, which I believe is fundamentally, I believe the first line is fundamentally yin, but you can find the exalted yang in it. So this is just, I guess, some of the nuance slash overview. Okay, well, the way I look at it, the best lens that I found is that the first, third, and fifth lines are yin, second, fourth, and sixth are yang. And then we apply the pattern fixed, cardinal, mutable, fixed, cardinal, mutable. So we looked a little bit in the last video, what happens if we now apply this to the Steve Rhodes keynotes around reactivity, right? And also, I guess maybe this will be the addition, what happens if we understand that in terms of relationship compatibility? We know that what we're drawn to in others is, at least in some part, determined by the nodes. This has been the topic of some of my previous videos. I won't go over it again, other than to say it seems that one of the qualities of the nodes that Steve Rhodes has really spent a lot of time with is that they are qualities that we like in others. So obviously, using his conventional keynoting, we could say, because I have third line nodes on both sides, I'm drawn to people who are opportunistic. I'm drawn to those who carry either a third or fourth line, which are the two lines he calls opportunistic. Of course, only the fourth line is described as opportunistic traditionally, but I think it's easy to see that the bumping into someone and making a bond can be an opportunistic bond. And then when it doesn't go well, breaking the bond can also be quite opportunistic, sort of the reactive opportunist, if we will. The moon's pretty overhead there. There it is. Okay, so now I guess the question is, because I have third line nodes, am I more drawn to / compatible with people who are, I guess, what do the third and fourth lines have in common? They're not cardinal. I might have a problem with cardinality, right? Because there's either a reactive cardinal or an unreactive cardinal. Are you following me? This is quite advanced, so please refer to the previous videos if you need a hand with it. But the quick recap is that second line and fifth line are cardinal, right? Because I have third line nodes, I'm drawn to the 3-4 binary. I'm compatible with the 3-4 binary, according to Steve Rhodes, right? So because I have this compatibility with lines 3 and 4, neither of which are cardinal, and because I have a hard time with reactive people, first and second lines, and I have a hard time with very unreactive initiating people, fifth and sixth lines, that I basically have a hard time with cardinality, because cardinality can only ever be reactive or initiating. There's no opportunistic cardinality. I have an easier time with people who are fixed, and I have an easier time with people who are mutable. But other cardinal people, sort of movers and shakers who are going their own direction, it's hard for me. It's like if somebody's really stubborn and fixed, okay, great. I know how fixed you are. I can deal with that. If someone's really opportunistic, great. I know how opportunistic you are. I can deal with that. I'm drawn to really opportunistic people. Sorry, I guess there's mutable or there's fixed opportunistic. If somebody's really mutable, they're really changeable. That's okay. I'm expecting you to be changeable. So you're fixed, it's okay. You're changeable, it's okay. You're opportunistic, it's okay. What's challenging for me when somebody's really reactive? But at least if they're reactive and fixed or reactive and mutable, I can deal with them a little better, maybe, right? Then what else is challenging for me? Somebody's not reactive at all, just completely like blank wall. I can't get through to them. But at least if they're fixed blank wall, I can kind of get through a little bit because I understand the fixed quality. If they're mutable blank wall, I can get through a bit because I understand they're going to be changeable. So what is the hardest for me then is the cardinal reactive and the cardinal unreactive. Basically the second line and the fifth line. It's like it's cardinal reactive. Like they make a decision to go a direction out of reactivity and they're not going to change the decision and I can't get through to them no matter what. It almost seems fixed, right? But at least fixed is a little bit predictable in a way. Cardinal is more dynamic, right? That would be the second line. Or they're so unreactive and they've made their decision and they're going to go with it. I mean, when I think back to my relationships, 5 1s and 2 4s are the relationships I've had the hardest time with. Now, obviously, these are my resonant and harmonic profiles, right? I have resonance with 5 1s, I have harmony with 2 4s. Obviously, these are people that I have a deep connection with. Some of the very significant people in my life have been 5 1s and 2 4s. And yet, there is a way that I have a hard time with both. And what I have a challenge with is not the 1s and the 4s as much, particularly not the 4s, right? At least a 2-4 as a fourth line. So my nodes make it sort of easy for me to handle a fixed opportunist. You know, that's easy for me to handle. But it's hard for me to handle the 1s, the 2s, and the 5s. The reactive fixed 1, the reactive cardinal 2. I know I'm using a lot of keynotes here. So I'm just going to wrap it up here just to say that looking at my own relationships, it does seem tangentially, anecdotally, that I have had difficulties with second and fifth lines, even though I myself am a fifth line personality, and that those difficulties are basically around how dynamic and unpredictably cardinal they are, while simultaneously making major life decisions out of a place of reactivity or a place out of being untouched, and I can't get through to them. It's like, if I can be like, here's an opportunity for you, take this opportunity, then that's great. Third lines, fourth lines, they will take the opportunity. The third line will be like, okay, sure, I'll make the bond. I can always break it later. The fourth line will be like, I've been waiting for this opportunity. So the third and the fourth line, it's very easy for me to present them opportunities for them to do it. The second line can be really reactive and dynamic and cardinal and make a huge life decision out of that place of reactivity. And that can be very challenging for me because I'm not nodally equipped to handle that. The fifth line can be very disaffected, can't get through to them, can't read them, no reaction whatsoever. And I'm like, wow, I just told you, I poured out my heart to you and you have no reaction. Well, now I know how other people feel around me, right? Because they do that to me and I have a very unreactive personality. So I'm not saying that this means anything. I'm not saying that I can't be in a relationship with people like this. I'm not saying that I won't, have the love of my life be a second line or a fifth line or a 2-5 or a 5-2 or who knows what. I'm just saying the second and the fifth lines nodally are perhaps my least compatible lines because I have third line nodes. So food for thought. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Look at your own nodes. Where do you have compatibility or incompatibility? Most people have nodes in different lines. If you actually have nodes in different binaries, then you actually probably can get along with a wider range of people, right? But if you have the nodes in the same binary or in the same lines, you have third and fourth line nodes, or both your nodes are third lines like mine, you're going to be limited in some way. So we can almost call this your nodal blind spot. Where is your nodal blind spot? Mine is second and fifth lines. How did I get there? Because the third line and the fourth line are fixed and opportunistic. So they're fixed and mutable. Both are opportunistic. So I automatically understand and am compatible with people who are fixed, people who are mutable, or people who are opportunistic. This means I'm less compatible and maybe have a harder time understanding people who have cardinal, reactive, or initiating lines. I know that's a mouthful. I know it's pretty complex. I'd love to teach this material again with graphics, but hopefully you got something out of it. It's a rich area of inquiry, and I hope you got some cool ideas at least. I hope this sparked some interesting conversations. Thanks for watching.